Inhale, exhale. Okay, hands up. Now we're going to slide down, release the tension in the back of the legs and let it go. 2, 3, to your right. 2, 3, to your left. 2, 3, center. Inhale, exhale. Okay, one more time, hands up. Reach down, let it go. Release. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, center. Inhale, exhale. Okay, hands on your waist. You're going to do the circular movements with the hips. Release the ankles. The head stays pretty still. Okay, so you're really rotating between here and the ankles. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Reverse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Center, cross, knees, circular movements. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Reverse. Reverse the arms so the side that's on the outside is the side you're going toward. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Okay, hands on your waist. Neck turning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Back and forth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Center. Tilt to the side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Center. Down. Rotate. 1, 2, 3. Reverse. 1, 2, and center. Okay. Hands up. Pull in. Inhale up on your toes. Exhale. Remember, breathe in through your nose. Tongue touches the roof of your mouth. And exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, now we're going to spread the feet. 1, 2, and 3. Turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, and stop. Okay, turn. Stretch it out. 1, 2, 3. Switch. 1, 2, 3. switch, 1, 2, 3, switch, 1, 2, 3, switch, straighten the front knee, bend forward, release the back of the leg, fold from the hip, keep your spine as straight as possible, don't curl the neck down like this, just reach and let the body go forward as possible, so you're folding from the hip. Okay, switch. Switch, relax, exhale as you go down, try to go deeper and deeper each time. Don't overdo it if you're not used to doing the stretch. Okay, switch. And center, reach down. Okay, shake it out. Hands up, inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. So a lot of times when you stretch and you do this, when you get up, your back is really sore and you feel like but actually the reason for that is because while you're stretching, your back is resisting, so it's tightening rather than releasing. And then when you get up, the muscle feels like it's cramping and tight because your body was actually resisting that movement. So that's why your body, when you get up, feels uncomfortable because those muscles are not actually releasing. So you have to actually develop the mindfulness of the areas of your body that you're trying to release. So that's sort of that consciousness. And then with the exhalation of the breath, you start to release the area. So it's really a mind over the matter. You have to kind of bring the concentration to certain areas of your body. Okay, with that said, we're going to do shoulder rolls. So this is movement, so you really try to build that circle. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. Reverse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Okay, next we're going to press down or press backwards. Release. Exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale. Remember, breathing through your nose. Inhale and exhale through the nose, tongue touching the roof of your mouth. And stop. Hands up. Pull in, inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, wrists. Okay, reverse. Okay, palms down. Bigger circle. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1. Relax the shoulders. Make sure you relax the shoulders and actually this whole area here, the shoulder girdle. Relax this bone, the clavicle, so that you can go way up as high as you can, and you should feel it all the way through your back. 2, 3. I'm going to do another set. 1, 2, and stop. Okay, shake it out. Okay, back to the shoulder width stance. Remember, shoulder width stance established by this V position is a 90-degree position. Here's your square position. Here's your triangle. Here's your square. Okay, hands on your hips. You're going to shift over to the side. So when you shift over, you want between the nape of your neck, your spine, or your chin, just feel a line that goes through toward the heel of the supporting foot. And at some point, you're going to reach a point where your foot wants to come across. That's the point where this is just with gravity coming toward your center. You see, just imagine yourself hanging off a bar. Your legs are going to hang like this, pretty much in a vertical position, because it doesn't have resistance and you're just hanging there. So when we shift our weight over like this, it's essentially hanging in that position. So you can see how this foot would actually drag over to find that point where it doesn't really have any tension or resistance. So that's your balance point and center of mass. So when you shift over and everything is hanging here, if you put a little effort here, you're going to be able to bring your foot out and balance, and your body should be fairly relaxed. The problem is when we shift over and we don't know where, and we have tension in this leg, that's where you're going to be unstable. So as your body learns to relax, to find that centered position, then you'll be able to balance and lift. Okay, so right now we're just working on finding that center, and then we're going to balance the upper and lower hand movements by standing on one leg. So practice makes perfect. So the more you do this, the better you'll get and the more comfortable you get. If you do it once a week, it's going to be, a slow progression. So we're doing these classes 3 times a week, so you actually can follow along if you have the time. Or any of the videos are archived, so you can at least do these warm-up exercises. Okay, shake it out. Deep breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. So now we have this arm swing and leg swing exercise that we do. Okay, so here we move the hands. Now we have to shift the weight over till we get close to the center. And if we move the foot forward and move the opposite forward, we get a relationship in how the body is actually moving. So that's actually what we're doing, although when we do this exercise, we're going to keep one leg stationary. Aim towards your center line and just let the body point in the same direction. The toe, fingertip and the toe, you kind of aim them at each other. You see that? Okay. So you're actually building some coordination and you're building that relationship. Okay, next we're going to switch to the other side. Let's take a step, take a step. Go backwards and backwards. Go forward and forward, backwards and backwards. Okay, now we're going to kick it out. That's on that side. Oh, sorry. We're going to do the other side. So from the side view, you would see that the hand and feet are in front at the same time on opposite sides. You see that? One. So if you were kicking high enough, you can probably hit your hand. So because we're not making it too physical, we're just letting it swing, we want to just create action. Okay, shake it out. So one thing, if you didn't really realize that your leg is going to swing back down once you lift it up. All right, it's going to swing down and it comes forward. So you contract here and it comes back down. You lift here and it comes back down. So if you balance that motion by the amount of effort you have on both sides, the leg is just going to swing like a pendulum. Okay, so you can see this from the side-to-side direction that's what's happening. One. So we just use the right amount of effort to get the hands moving and the leg moving. Anything beyond that is just going to be too physical. Okay, opposite side. Find your center. And center. Okay, shake it out. Hands up. Pull in. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, now we're going to do this and step out, silk reeling. So go forward and back. So this has a little more dimensional change than the diagonal flying. So we're here. Sit back, turn. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Turn. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm doing mirror image, so it's my right arm going forward. It's your left. So we see the movements going from shoulder to hip, separate when you lean forward and back. So if I switch sides, I'm going to do the same side as you. It's my left, and then the same applies. So now we're turning toward the mirror, forward and back. Turn toward the mirror, forward and back. Okay, now I'm going to switch, go to the other side, forward and down and back. It's 1, 2, shoulder and hip, separate the hands, turn and down to here. If I did this as a mirror image to you, then it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and then back, and then forward. Okay. So now we cross the forearms. Bring one foot forward, the foot that's on this side, so it's my right, your left, open and close. Open and close. Expand and release. Expand and contract. So the contraction happens when the hands kind of pull in and go out. But you're not actually pulling. Just giving you an idea that the hands and the arms are coming toward each other. And you open and you close. So your forearms cross like this. Now if I bring this hand to the outside, bring this foot forward, we do it on this side. So you have the opening and closing, and look at the palms when they're open. They're both facing that way. And look at the palms when we're crossed. They're facing opposite. Then you look at the leg. The supporting leg is going up and down. So you're straightening and folding as another dimension of movement. So you can see that the body actually is building this integration. And then back to center. Okay, next, back to shoulder width stance. And we're going to lift up like this, drop the elbows, and push down. It's called preparation. So it's relax the elbows, sink the elbows, relax the shoulders. Okay, one more time. And then we're going to go to lower hoop position. So these are the standing meditation exercises. There's 5 of them. Lower hoop. Okay, that's the geometry of position. Lower hoop. We're going to go to shoulder height hoop. So between the shoulder height and the lower hoop. Okay, other 2 arcs. Okay, let's hold the lower position. Clear your thoughts. Breathe through your nose, tongue touching the roof of your mouth. Okay, next we're going to go shoulder height. So that's the first 2. elbows down, triangle position. So elbows down. This is the third position, so you have two hoops, lower, middle, and elbow down for the triangle. Knees are still slightly bent. So all three of those would be in a bent position. Going to the next one will be straightening the legs. Okay, clear your thoughts. Hold the ball. So this is holding, a smaller ball. Fingertips are spread. The palm of the hand is hollowed or rounded. Okay, now we lower the hands, pass through this position. Get the hands alongside your leg. Lift your back, lift your spine, chin tucked in slightly. Okay, extend the fingertips. Okay. Pull in deep breathing. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, next we have our hands like this. We're going to step out. This is diagonal flying. So that's the shoulder hip. It kind of looks like the silk grilling exercise, but we're not turning as much. So we're just going to keep it in this frontal sort of plane, and this is in front over the knee, or at least line with the knee, and this is over here. Not like this, like this. So the elbow stays in more of a down position, and this is pointing down. So that's your vertical arm, and this is down, but it's actually slightly curved, so it's more in the horizontal hand position. So it's vertical, and this is horizontal. Okay, now we're going to go to the other side. Shoulder hip. Okay, so this is elbow pointing down. Okay, so something like this is slanting down, but then if we put both hands here, you see you're kind of like in this horizontal position, but then the elbows are actually out, you see. So even though the elbow is down, it's not down in this sense. It's just down because it's lower than here. So when we're here, if you're turning, you actually have your elbow out. So that's why it's kind of misleading when I say elbow down and elbow out for horizontal and vertical. So if you really have to dig deep to figure out what that is. All right, deep breathing, inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. and exhale. Okay, next we're going to do the cloud hands. Okay, so we're here, right? Going to hit the elbow circles. So this isn't cloud hand. This is the wrist exercise. It works the two circles, and then we're going to work the other way. Okay. So we can see we have two circles, and circles are generally defined as clockwise or counterclockwise. Now, if I change one side and then the other side, that builds right and left rotation. This is counterclockwise. If you're looking at the mirror or you're looking at my movement, it's counterclockwise. But it looks like it's a circular movement going in this direction, so it's going to your left. This one's going to your right. Okay, now if I move the hands and then turn slightly in the waist or the shoulders, then you're going to get a lateral transition. Okay, now you see that. Now we're going to shift the weight like we did before and then let it hang. Shift the weight and let it hang. Okay, so you notice when we're bringing the arms in a direction, we end up actually transferring some of the weight to that side. And then I'm going to shift over, and you can see what begins to happen. Your body starts to respond to find a position of balance, and you start to turn. Now I'm going to step like this. Now I'm going to bring it back over here. So this essentially is footwork walking to the side. Now the more you practice something like this, the easier it is to find the supporting leg, which is actually what we call the substantial leg. So if you do two hand movements, you would have a shift twice. This side, this side, this side, this side, and we're back. Then we go to the side again, and then like this. So our feet are parallel, stepping laterally like that. You know, it's something that when we're doing movements in space, it's harder to connect with what you're actually doing because all you're doing is copying the movement, following along. But if you're on a platform or a plank, and say you're painting or whatever, and you're moving laterally across because you want to do something on the wall, you could see that this is what you would be doing, stepping. But once we bring the hands and the legs in a motion like this, it takes a little bit of understanding in the body because you really can't connect with or make something type of movement that's tangible to some type of function. So a lot of times, learning like this is really a visualization of action, or maybe even mindfully thinking about what's going on here. So that's where the focus is. That's where the mind-body relationship comes into play, where we're doing movements, but yet not understanding what we're actually doing with the movement. Okay, deep breathing again. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale up on your toes and pause. Okay, so you're really balancing on the balls of your feet, and your calf muscle is contracted in order to stay up like that. So it's a toe raise, and you let it down. And if you go up and down, you can feel your calf muscle actually really working. So that's what someone does to want to build strong calf muscles or exercise their calves. So anyways, we're in this position now. We're going to go to the geometry of position. There's your lower hoop again, and then we go to shoulder height, and then we're going to go up a little higher in front of the eyes. So this is really about temple level. It's stork flaps wings. It's also the upper hoop. Upper meaning eye level, cross hands, in front of the sternum, the solar plex area there, and then lower the hands to lower hoop. So all we're doing is going up and down, going up and down. So these are transitions. You're going to find this in Carry Tiger to the Mountain that shows up in the form in a couple of different formats, one with a cross-legged twist in a long form, and also going from the front to a rear corner or front to the side corner. So it's really a transition with hand movements taking you into another direction. Okay, so this is Carry Tiger to the Mountain. Okay, so I'm going to show you where that kind of shows up in the form. When we're like this and we carry Tiger to the Mountain, we're actually turning to this rear corner or the front corner in this instance, and then we see the hands going through the motions as if that's stork flaps or raising the hand. So when we're here, this is turning, taking us over to here till we have the lower hoop. And then we go to the upper hoop. Then we move our feet and then transition into the cross hand positions. So it's not exactly the same order, but we have the same positions. So when we're here, this is what we're doing. And we form the lower hoop, and we shift the weight forward and lift up, sit back, and then turn, square the feet, and cross the arms. Okay. Now I broke that, actually I merged that simultaneously. So we hold, if I stepped up, and then we did the cross hand positions, you could see that that's the breakdown, doing the hands and the legs separately. Whereas when we're standing here, we're doing this, you don't have the leg transition, so you have to build that relationship, move your legs, move your hands, move your legs, move your hands, which becomes another way of sort of transitioning from one direction to the other. Right? So from here, we're going to do the infinity sign. So this is divert block, and then we would punch. So this is a figure 8 on its side. You have 2 of these. So this is just bringing it out and bringing it in, bringing it out and bringing it in. And then pay attention to how big those movements are and how big and how expansive you would go. So look at the wrists, look at the shoulders, and look at the elbows. Because most of the time when you're first learning something, the only thing you're going to be looking at is the hands. So that's what you would think you're doing. Or you're not paying attention to the size, and then you start doing this. And then you're not paying attention to the plane of movement, so then it starts to vary and track differently because now you're moving the body excessively in a different direction. So you have to kind of define the direction of movement first. So the only way to kind of connect with it is to do it and do it often. So you're here, form your fists. And when I say often, I don't mean 24 hours a day. Often means doing it several times a week. Okay, this is forming the fist. This is the action. This is what it looks like. When you break it down, you're like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make a fist, pull back, and punch. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Your goal is to smooth it out so it becomes an efficient movement, and it appears to be much more effective in forming the fist because it's not broken down. It's sort of like stirring. You were mixing something, you're stirring. You wouldn't do this. You wouldn't get anywhere. You have to actually create the, eddies that you creating when you're doing something like stirring. The fluid or whatever you're stirring starts to blend and mix. If you went like this, it would be too broken and nothing would happen. Okay, so when we're doing this, you have to create the smoothness eventually. And where that shows up in the form between this and this is divert, block, and punch. So because we're doing the diverting on the left side and we're doing the punch on the right side, and you're in a stance like this, your hands start from here. You go 1, 2, 3. So one mistake a lot of people make is because when we're doing this and forming the fist, when you get into neutral position, you end up doing it over here. That's where it is when we're doing exercise because we're doing 2 of them. But when you do 1, you have to take it to the center. So now that figure 8, where it crosses, is in your center. And then if you're turning, it doesn't leave your center. So that's a reference point. And as we start to move and build this posture called divert, block, and punch, we bring the left hand to the outside to cross, leopard and tiger springs to mountain. Okay, we see how that works? This is called divert, block, punch in the forward position, sit back, go out, in, out, cross, and now look at the left hand, leopard and tiger springs to mountain. Okay, so if you just did this, okay, this is, if you look at the shoulders, there's a slight movement to the right and left. When I punch, there's a center line triangle aligning with the knee, the front, and nose, and then you draw back. That's your position. Okay. Now, if I punch in this position, my body's like this. If I sit back like this, there's an exchange that you can see the forward hand. If I look in the mirror, you can see the hand is actually exchanging in a forward, backward direction. And then when I get back to this position, I go 1, 2, 3. While the front hand is extended, the right hand, I bring this hand to the outside and I separate the arms and I push. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the mirror position. I see 1, 2, 3. Now bring the hand to the outside. That doesn't have to go as big as I just did that. You bring it down and you turn your shoulders. And then as I turn back, I open my hands and go forward. Okay. So that begins tying the movement together, and the movement is actually working as a function of the 2 sides working together. Now that's something for the people that are doing the 108 movement form as you evolve. When you do the cross hand to do leopard and tiger springs to mountain, you should actually start to bring your waist into that movement. Otherwise, the hands are just isolated in one direction, and then you're not going to get dimensional change, and your body hasn't built in what we call the integration of body, where it becomes on a functional side much more effective. So that means upper-lower coordination. All right, deep breathing. So some of the people doing the 108 movement form that has learned the form might be saying, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know the body's supposed to be moving and turning. Well, obviously, it's something that wasn't picked up on when you're just watching. So when I explain something like this and I point that out to you, now it becomes obvious and you're aware of it. Now, if you're just learning these movements, that's not going to really matter as much, because what's happening is your focus is on learning the sequence of those movements. The body mechanics is really kind of set aside and set back until the body and the mind start to make that connection, and the understanding of the movements start to make sense. And that's really what upper-lower coordination is. Okay, going back to the drills, we form the fist and we punch. We go to strum the lute, separate the hands. Strumming the lute. Okay. So really, it's a term. A lot of times when we call a position by its name, it's really the final position. So this is strum the lute right on my side, left on this. So if I look in the mirror, strum the lute left is this, the hand position, right. But we know that when we're in the left stance, the strum, the lute, and the left hand should go together. So while we're doing those drills over and over again to perfect this and find this center line and begin to get a precise position, muscle memory, we learn to do this. We learn to do this. Because once we move one of the feet forward, we have to move one of the hands forward to complete the posture. So in strum the lute, we're adjusting the feet and moving the hands. If we to toe out and step up, you see what happens when I go like this and I switch, my hands are doing just what we're doing here. Okay. So the first phase of learning, you're here. You separate the hands and you come back to here. So that's really kind of one-sided and blocky. But once the hands know, then they start to exchange like this. Once your legs become part of the position, then we know the body will do this. And then we would go forward if we were to complete the movement, and here's brush knee. Okay, so that's kind of a sample of what happens when you start to build your form and you build integration of movement. So we've been building these for the last few months, and if you've been following, now you can see where this all kind of leads to, because if we're going to build the form and it has to be approaching a level of seamlessness where the movements all appear to be connected, we learn through the broken down method, the blocky method, the block form. Then once we build the structure, the integrity of position, then we start to see that this is really what we're doing, strum the lute. Now thumbs up, palms together. Well, that happens when we're here and we go forward and we separate the hands and do this, that's grasp the sparrow's tail, right? So vertical to horizontal is this, and then we alternate the shoulders. Now when we alternate the shoulders, we're building that relationship to go from one side to the other, and then when we switch, we really have what we call the beginning style movements. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Similar to diagonal flying and just moving how the body just shifts over. It looks like you created another posture. And that's really what happens when we're here. Right? So that's kind of blending it together. And then when you move, as you make your transition, it ends up like this. Right? Okay, so I just did a series of left and right side beginning style movements going from one to the other. And you can see that when you do this, that really you're building the pattern up in the upper body, and then when you start to shift your legs, it becomes a relationship of the upper and the lower body. And then grasp the sparrow's tail would happen here. Okay. So you can see as you build all these minute transitions which are pretty subtle in the beginning, you start to see how the form is built and how someone evolves over time. Now, this doesn't happen, overnight. It happens over, a period of time where the body starts to recognize what the mind has been learning all this time. All that information that you hear, that you see, that you try to mimic becomes much more clear as a thought. And then you start to build that understanding. So body intelligence is really our end goal is to build an astute body that knows what transitions are, what the feeling is, what all of this stuff is tied to our proprioceptive sensory system, the reflexes, the action, the speed, and actually the space within your, the realm of your movement. And space is really defined as this center line and 45 degrees. Okay. So even though the form could cover this whole room, the relationship is anywhere within the realm of that 45-degree position. Regardless of where you're turning, you really can't go beyond those positions structurally, although you would say, well, there's a 180-degree movement. But most of the movements that turn to 180 degree doesn't happen by itself. It has to happen as a function of the body turning in a direction. So I just did the same strum the lute with a 180-degree turn, because now the body knows that this is how we're creating grasp the sparrow's tail. Now, anyone that's been doing this for a while can see that there's a technique there. There's a blocking technique built into those movements and a transition. All right, so we have a few deep breaths again. Then we're going to draw the bow. Okay. Draw the bow, bring the palms together, and turn. And turn. Okay. And turn. So this is realigning the body from one side to the other. It's drawing the bow. But it also gives you the sense that the body creates a lot of the action. Okay, now I'm going to cross the hands like this, spread the feet, lift the elbows, fan to the back. Okay, so the people that are doing 108 movement form, you're doing the kicks, loosen up the shoulders, relax the body, and lift and expand. So you can see when we lift and we go out to the side, we open and close. Right? So this hand is on top, and it goes out. This hand is on top, and it goes out. This hand is on top, and it goes out. Okay? So pay attention to this now. This hand goes out, and it goes out. Insert the needle, fan to the back. Okay? Insert the needle, that's up and down, step forward, adjust the feet, fan to the back. So while you're integrating the movement and you step forward and you move forward, things start to happen together. So the hands and the feet, the elbows and the knees, the shoulders and the hips start to create an action that's really a relationship in the body that becomes, much more of your goal. And when you start to do that, you have efficiency of movement. Everything is moving, and your body's building this, relationship. It's sort of harmony of movement. Your hips work with your shoulders, your elbows work with your elbows, your knees and elbows work with the knees. Then your ankles and your hands, or your feet and your hands, start to build that relationship. Okay, so now we have raised the hand. Building range of motion. So this is, if you were doing this specific movement and some of the other breathing exercises, this is sort of called heaven and earth. So heaven, earth, and person, they would say heaven, earth, and man, but that might not be politically correct. So we call it heaven, earth, and the body between is really the middle. Okay, so when we're doing that, it's just a separation. It's opposite, just like raise the hand. We're doing this to get the extreme position to relax this and to relax the shoulder. So when we do this position, we feel pretty relaxed. There is tension there. No doubt there's tension there, but how much tension carries through to here becomes what is learning to relax. Because if you tense here, here, and here, then the movement's going to look kind of rigid. So you have to learn to relax. And then this becomes solid, but yet, so it's firm, but not stiff. All right, deep breathing. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. So we're going to go through the sequence now, beginning with shoulder width stance, preparation, adjust, strum the lute or starting position, beginning style. Turn the corner, flip the elbow. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Hook your wrist, turn to the corner, open the stance, single whip. Hold the ball, shift, shift, forward, forward, raise the hand, bend from the waist, stork flaps wings, and relax. Turn, brush knee and push. Sit back, brush knee second time, and push. Sit back, go forward, twist step, turn, flip, and push. Sit back, go forward, twist step, brush knee, and push. Going forward, we're going to continue. This is strum the lute. So strum the lute is a series of movement. It's not just that one position. Form the fist. This is divert, block, and punch. Leopard and tiger springs to mountain. And you bring your hands actually back to neutral. If we were to carry tiger to the mountain long form, we would go forward. We go to repulse the monkey after fist under elbow, and that's here. So neutral position, wind the hands like this is fist under elbow. When we unwind the hands, we're back to neutral, and then we go to repulse the monkey. All of that was just an elbow position. Vertical elbow. Triangular position. Okay? Then we're here, we're going to just hold the ball like this. Toe out, step up into the left side stance, turn this way, flatten the foot, and diagonal flying. Sit back to center, bring the foot next to the other foot. There's your balance point. Step out, fan through the back. Okay, that was what we just worked on. Stroke down, invert the hand, and parry and punch. Open the hand, form the fist, step through, okay, punch, separate the hands, divert, block, and punch. Cross the arms, here's that movement again. Leopard and tiger springs to mountain. Bring the hands down, turn, carry tiger to the mountain. Cross the forearm, raise the left hand, bend from the waist, stork flaps wings. Go to neutral. Left side grasp the sparrow's tail is horizontal, palms down, inside hand faces up, push off the left side. Hook your wrist. It's the left side, grasp the sparrow's tail. We open the stance. We're going to hold the ball. Just a single whip to hold the ball. That's your left side single whip to hold the ball. Reverse the ball. Diagonal flying. Sit back. Stroke down. Hold the ball. Part the horse's mane. So you notice hold the ball is the starting position for diagonal flying. Part the horse's mane. Neutral position, vertical, is for, say, grasp the sparrow's tail. Jade lady works shadow. Brush knee. And, some of the other ones that's not as obvious, but you pass through vertical to horizontal, and you're here. Hook your wrist, drop your elbow, turning to this position, which really is back to single whip. Okay, bring this hand down, create the first circle, so we're going to shift and pivot. Now this cloud hand going to the left has pivoting. The Wu Style has this footwork that's a little bit more complicated than just stepping directly to the side. So I just did an extra one just for the practice, and we hook. And you can actually practice that doing about as many times as you want, 10 times if you want. Now from here we're going to hold the ball, flip it over. We'll flip it over and then move the foot, and then move the foot. Now here's hold the ball. Here's your diagonal flying on the right. Here's your fingertips out to the side. Step backwards. Forward to balance. Shoulder width. Elbows out. And down. And relax. Okay, deep breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. So I hope what I went through today was helpful for anyone that's been doing these warm-ups, and you can now see the relevance of those warm-ups and the relationship to developing the form, and how those movements kind of start to eventually sort of filter into the movements in the form, and that's actually the process. So even though those warm-ups seem to be so basic and fundamental to new people, or even to more advanced people, the warm-ups are essential to developing a concentrated dose of those patterns and movement, because if you do those over and over again over time, then the understanding, the depth of the movement will actually evolve if you allow the body to pick up on the strategy of what the body has to go through to learn some of the more complicated or the more subtle things that happen. So don't think this is just this, or this is just this, because if you think like that, then that's what all it is. But if you allow your mind to be, open and receptive to what you're developing there, from the proprioceptive ideas to spatial awareness to letting go of the tension and what parts of the body has to move, then you're actually training and developing much more, or at least a clarity of the understanding and what the body is doing. Because physical movement, body mechanics, and coordination is something that not everybody understands. Mainly because you have to be a pretty good athlete or someone that really trains hard to develop sort of that physical understanding. But even then, training, you have to develop a mental understanding to develop the true understanding. Now, going forward to the 108 movement form is what anyone that's finished or learning the form has to do, is take that next level, that next step from the Tai Chi Paradigm's ideas to the 108 movement form, and then start to refine what's inside there. So we have the kicks we've gone through so many times. The last class we went through was the transition in the hands when you do the downward posture, and then what happens when you cross and then go golden cockerel standing on one leg, and then we step down, thrust, kick, and retreat. So we have another dimension of movement where we're thrusting and poking, which is something that we really don't have in the early part of form because they didn't have these postures. You have the golden cockerel that we do in the warm-ups. This is more of a yang style golden cockerel. But golden cockerel essentially means standing on one leg. It's like a golden chicken standing on one leg. So chickens, typically stand on one leg. So they use that as an image. But because this is pointing down and this is like this is more of a yang style, a Wu style golden cockerel. Although the names are the same, the stylistic differences in the body form. So the idea of this is really the foot is curled this way and the knee is drawing back. So that gives you that posture. And then the hands are like this. So every style, actually, this is a position as well. This is golden cockerel in the Chen style. So, but it's still standing on one leg. What you do with the hands become a variant of the position based on what the interpreter, the style developer created. So golden cockerel essentially is this, all right? So that gives you, that a sense of what we're doing. This is thrusting, and really it's poking like this. So in fact, if you look at the geometry of position, and I go to the lower hoop and the middle hoop, okay, and I square the hands, and I draw down on a slant, and I poke toward the center like this, there's your poke, okay, there's your poke, all right, and we pull down, and we push, okay, so those 5 positions, okay, so you have the lower hoop coming up here, here's your center line triangular position, here's your square position, here's your slanting movement backward. So slant from shoulder to waist, turn from here to poke up. So it's like thrusting toward the center. You have it here when you're doing that closing movement. Close the door after strum the lute. So you have a thrust, but it's not as extended in the beginning. Now you're extending out, or snake sticks out, tongue, you're sticking out. Okay, so when we go from here to here and we extend the hands, you see the triangle, see the geometry of position is here. So when you thrust out, like snake sticks out tongue, you're here, and you're here, and then you're here. So this, between this and this, is just turning your hands over. The body is only made up of so many pieces. It's made up of a couple of arms and a couple of legs, your appendages. You have some joints that connect them, but there's only so many things you can do with them. But the combinations of those different positions become massive. But the basic geometry of position is really your center line, your triangle, and then you have your angular positions. Now, depending on where you go in space, you have X, Y, Z axes. The triangles are consistent, but they start to vary in combination. So that's really something that requires a whole lot of thought and processing. So to make it simpler, just learn the postures and follow it and just identify. Then as you evolve, all of that stuff will start to form, and it becomes much more precise and accurate. So if we go like this, it's really our lower hoop, like brush knee. So we're in a neutral position, and we turn like this, and we turn like this. The brushing part and the twisting become part of a unit. When I'm here, brush knee, I'm turning palms out like this. This is your format, right? And we turn. But you don't actually do that if you're starting to integrate your body, because the different segments of your body start to combine and work as a unit. So if I'm like this, that's brush knee, tying the movements together in the phases in which the relationship of the hands and legs have to go together, right? When I'm turning, this is brush knee. If I combine the two hands, now I just did a series of movements to connect the body position. So now you have sound, solid transition where the hands and the body has to work together to integrate. And that relationship is really the end goal, because when the hands move like we're doing strum the lute and we turn and continue and move, the body is in motion and it doesn't really stop at any given point. It just changes directions. So if you can capture that idea, then what I just did was like a drill. It's part of brush knee movements, stemming from this, and this. So between this, and this, we have all of those minute little things that you thought were not part of the detail becomes part of the movement. Now, a lot of times I mentioned the idea of compatibility of movement, movements that are compatible with direction and so forth. So if I'm turning like this, my hands are doing this. If I'm going down, my hands are going down like this, and then there's going up. When I'm turning, the body is turning, so I have this. When I go like this, forward and back, right and left, up and down, folding, unfolding, all of these, it's terminology I use, but while we're taking them into sort of isolation to define the movement and space, when you begin to integrate it, it builds that kind of oneness to the movement. So that's really what we're doing in the brush knee. Okay. Say we're doing strum the lute. Okay. We're here, 1, 2, right? That's how we do it. 1, 2. We move, right? 1, 2. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the elbows and knees have to work together. So here's center line, here's right and left, here's back to center, sink, thrust forward, fold the elbows, up and down. So when you practice the movements long enough, your body becomes familiar with the different components. Then when those different components start to blend together, they start sort of like information up in your mind. The files of information that you've stored up there start talking to each other, and it starts relating to what you're trying to do. And then all of a sudden, over time, it's sort of that aha moment. All of this stuff starts to click, and all of a sudden, the movements just become so innate that it just builds the relationship of the movement without actually having to think about it. Okay, so it's just something that happens that is very unique to what we're doing. It takes a lot of time to go through that phase, and I'm just exposing this idea to you, because if you don't actually see it or realize that this is what's going to happen, you don't see where the progression is. And if you don't see the progression, the tendency is to say, well, I know it, I don't want to do it anymore or whatever. But if you know that there's a stage beyond, then that's a goal to reach. And it's really just a type of exercise that you can do forever, and you can constantly evolve. So the difference is that unlike some physical exercise that you do, as the body starts to break down, as your body is not as physically capable because of different ailments, something like this, because it's between the mind, the body, and motion, it continually evolves. And as you get better over time, your body actually becomes more efficient. So you can maintain a quality of life with movement better than you would by just sitting around. Okay, so you can see just strum the lute is really a bunch of movements that we've learned, and then you tie that together with the hands. And the body. So you see this, you would say to yourself, well, he's never taught it like that in class. Well, it's taught in class, but yet it's not clear to you that your body has evolved to the stage where the hands are moving like this. So when you do this and you go like this and you're doing this in the form and you don't allow your body to adapt and react to what's going on in the movement, then of course you're not going to evolve because your body has not picked up on the multitude of theories that's been built into the movements over years. So some of the more advanced people that are watching this, or the people that have been here for a couple of decades, would say, oh, that's what we should be doing. And so sometimes when you practice, you still like, you have your blinders on and you kind of like, it's this or that. It's not this or that. You have to let your movements evolve over time and express the movements the way you see it. So I do this so you can get a mental imagery of what we're trying to do, and then hopefully over time you start to pick up on that strategy, and then you'll evolve. Okay. So that's really basically the theory behind what happens. One of the questions a lot of people have, so why is there these two postures that are so similar, but yet they look the same? So diagonal flying and part the horse's mane. So those two postures are in many of the traditional forms. A lot of the modern forms have taken out the diagonal flying. They've kept the part the horse's mane. So part the horse's mane from hold the ball is this, right? Diagonal flying is this. So you say, well, that they are so close in similar movement. Why do we need both of them? In functionality, there might be a little bit different type of interpretation, but think of a posture as a final position. But then what do you go from that final position to the next position varies on based on interpretation of movement or application of that technique. So if my hands are like this, then I'm probably moving my body like this and then like this. So it's a slant pato. It's using your shoulder because we're here, and then we turn using the body, and then turning like this using the body like this. Whereas if I'm like this, then I have actually an elbow where I can project forward. So slanting diagonally is really a movement that leads you into a position that becomes this. Whereas part the horse's mane is more of a turning. So the parts of the body that are involved in the intent of motion will define the difference between part the horse's mane and the slant diagonally. Because slant diagonally is really slanting back or in a position to begin to thrust. Now, if I captured an arm and I'm coming like this, I can go like this and thrust, or in this instance, if I sink my elbow, it can become an arm bar. You can see the difference between this position and this position. You can't do the arm bar if the elbow's in the wrong position. You can do this, though, in part the horse's mane, using part of the rounding. So when you start to apply the technique, you will see that there's a blend of the horizontal, the vertical, and the hoop position, which the hoop position becomes part of the pung position, like in ward off or ward off. So if you notice, like in the 24 movement, you have part the horse's mane, then you have ward off, roll back. So what's the difference between ward off and part the horse's mane? They look the same because you came from hold the ball to that. So that's really the slight significant difference, is that when you're like this is lifting. When you're like this is like this. So part the horse's mane is slightly like this. And this is Yang style part the horse's mane. So this is Wu style part the horse's mane. It looks the same until you change the elbow slightly. And change the direction of your intent of movement. So if I capture like this and I pull like this and I'm doing this, that becomes diagonal flying. If I capture like this and I go like this becomes part the horse's mane. So this is like you're bringing it across, like you're waving or stroking your head. So see, that's a little bit different. When you're here, you're going like this, doesn't come here. So that's, I guess, directionally maybe the best way to kind of clarify that idea. So, forms teach body mechanics and body movement. So when you take movements and apply them, that's where the dimensional changes and the direction of movement start to make more sense and more importance. So when you're like this or you're like this and you thrust, this is another thing. When you thrust or you kick, your hands come out like this and they come from point A to point B. How the hand interacts becomes that relationship. Okay, so everything that you do is building a direction of movement that has some form of motor skill or some type of action that's somewhat interpreted if it's a martial art or has functionality. So when we're just doing form without function, then it's just waving your hand. And if it's just waving your hand, it becomes dance or ballet only purely for aesthetics or purely for clearing of the mind and just waving. So that's, to me, is like an infant when they first, before they learn to actually do a task or become functional in their movement, it's just a kind of a flailing, and it's just there, and the arms and legs are moving, mainly to create circulation, but actually not building any kind of functional skill. It's not till child gets up, an infant gets up and starts to walk, then that becomes the first line of functionality, or crawling. You start to use your limbs a specific way because now I know I can, if I do this, I'm going to get to where I have to go to, point A to point B. Well, when you're doing your form, the same thing happens. We're doing these random moves. It's like you're flailing in air. You have no purpose or any rhyme or reason why you're doing that. But once you dial it all in and you say, well, okay, functionality, turning the body, now you're building an understanding of what body movement and mechanics is. Breath, movement, integration creates circulation. So when we say that they're flailing to create circulation, well, when we're moving, we're not flailing, but we're still building circulation. But it's much more refined. It's much more defined. It's much more clear as to the purpose of the motion. Okay, now let's go to the form. Hopefully that was a little bit helpful. I think we have about 5 minutes, so we're gonna have to get into the right after the first set of cloud hands. We're gonna move into the kicks. 1, 2, and I spent a lot of time the other day on this kick, and there's another question that came across, and it's called the palm strikes face. But we're going to have to work on that next class to define how the palm strikes face works. Heel kick, this goes up, heel kick, and then we have the 2 brush knees. Then we have planting punch. Think of planting into the soil. Turn. Parry and punch. And then we have the 4th movement, just like the first. Remember we worked on this the other day? If you didn't, then go to that specific video and you'll see how we did the beat the tiger. That's your right heel kick. We did a left one earlier. 2 punches there. It should be just about where your temple is. Parting leg. It's a circular movement. Spin. 360-degree pedal step. Fold your elbows. Lift the knee. Open. Stroke down. Invert the hand. and back fist. Form the fist and just repeat. We just did this. And leopard and tiger springs to mountain. Carry tiger to the mountain. Brush knee. These are your obliques. Grasp the sparrow's tail. And single whip back to the front. Hold the ball. Here's a reverse ball, just like the closing movement actually. Right, but we're going to go to right side diagonal flying and then part the horse's mane. So when you lean like this, the power comes from the body and the lean. So that's what conscious intent is. You bring the strength to the back and you open the back. But yet, it's an idea, right? So now we cross over to Jade Lady Work Shadow. And we do one on this side, then we cross over, spin, step, step, forward, back, forward. And then here, we have part the horse's mane again. Now we cross over. Jade Lady Work Shadow. Now let's spin. And here we make the exchange between the right and left. And we go forward, back, and forward. Then we're going to do a grasp the sparrow's tail. If you notice, single whip always follows grasp the sparrow's tail. And then we hold the ball and do a set of cloud hands. Back to single whip. And then we're going to do snake sticks out tongue, invert the hand, check your elbows, reverse the elbows, go down, come up through your center, cross the hands, lift the kick, and do this. Press down, snake sticks out tongue, you're sticking it out like this, and kick, draw back, go to neutral, reverse the stance, and repulse the monkey. So there's a bit of control there, but the only way to get that control is to practice those movements. And then we're going to go to neutral. This is carry tiger to the mountain with that cross-legged position. And we're going to open the legs or the stance and then go down, hold the ball this way. So we just spiral in, diagonal flying, step up, and raise the hand. Bend from the waist, stork flaps wings, and neutral. Turn, brush knee, insert the needle, fan to the back. Turn, stroke down, parry and punch, form the fist, step forward and punch. Divert, block, and punch, and step up. grasp the sparrow's tail. Single whip. Now we're going to do the second or third set of cloud hands. Second time for today here. And the clock is ticking. And because it's ticking, I think we'll have to close the form at this point. We won't make it to the end. You'll have to tune in next time to see the end of the form. Close the form and relax. Okay, on that note, actually we ran out of time, but the thing is this, next week we're going to start opening up, possibly depending on what the announcement are from the governor. But the thing is, if you plan to come back as soon as the announcement's made, we have to know so we can start planning our schedule. We're not using, in fact, June starts the summer quarter. So it's going to be a soft opening, probably some limited classes, but then at the same time, we're going to continue to do the streaming. And anyone that's just following, if you want the streaming to continue, as we hope you do, give us a thumbs up and subscribe. And the more people you get to do that, the more likely we can do a continuation of this, because it's not good to kind of like, well, all of a sudden the streaming stops because all our classes have started again. On that note, stay tuned, and I'll see you next time.